What's going on, freaks? James Hancock here. I'm back from my Dark Souls walkthrough, and this is a segment that I've been dreading ever since this whole process got started, because today I'm going to be farming all the shit out of the Great Hollow. When it comes to Dark Souls' greatest strength is probably doing these crazy vertically integrated level design, or basically the difference between like an environment versus the world. But this world is not necessarily that interconnected with the rest of the world. I mean, it's connected at the top and it's connected at the bottom, but it's basically just a long tube, and in that tube is a lot of death and a lot of pain, a lot of frustration, a lot of getting lost. But more importantly, lots of twinkling titanite, a lot of blue titanite chunks, a lot of potential drops like titanite slabs, which allow you to take like weapons and gear all the way to the max. So if you plan on maxing out your gear, it's absolutely a required stop. The problem is these crystal lizards, well, once you knowing where they are is the easy part, because I'm going to show you where they all are. The really big problem is that they don't always spawn. So you have to log in and out, log in and out, log in and out over and over and over again and make them spawn. Now, I got to give credit where credit is due. I'm basically stealing the exact route and strategy used by the Scottish blokes, Gay for Games. They have an amazing YouTube channel where they cover Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, and I think Fallout 4, but it's Ghey. And they spent hours and hours and hours figuring out this way that you could basically go through and get all the crystal lizards, and then start again at the top, and without backtracking or repeating anything, make your way down to the bottom and get all the gear. It's a really, really efficient route, and I don't think there's a more efficient route out there. I fall a few times, so I don't always get it totally right, but I always set a reset back where I was. So anyway, I have now farmed out that area, and yeah, that area has 4, so you just keep doing it over and over and over again. The reason I'm fast forwarding is there's no reason for you to just watch me log in and out, log in and out. What you really need to know is just the route. And so once I show you the locations where the things are, it's up to you to do the killing. So yeah, this one I got lucky. He was just hanging out. Somehow he didn't hear me coming. So that's one of the few positive turn to events that happens in this. I do have a few lucky jumps where I'm impressed by my ability to pull off some bullshit. But God, I gotta stop saying I've changed my YouTube channel to just they mean nothing. It's like the word actually. You're like, actually you're an asshole. Well, you don't have to say actually. You just can say you're an asshole. Like, actually is a word that actually, I just use it, doesn't mean anything. I can say actually is a word that doesn't mean anything, or actually is a word that actually doesn't mean anything. They say the same thing, but one's slower, one's faster. So you decide which one you want to use. So I'm going to periodically be going up and down in order to get my spells back or get my flasks back and that sort of thing. And yeah, it's the big thing to be aware of in here is that there are some flat routes and there are some round routes. And the round routes are really, really tricky, and you can just slide right off them, even if it looks like you're standing right on top of them. The flat ones are pretty easy. The round ones, the key is when you land on any of these things, don't roll or do anything until you're settled. If you land and your character doesn't immediately move, then you've got firm footing. So let yourself casually stand back up and then do your thing. It's when you try to move too quickly that all of a sudden you get this weird slippy and slidey stuff. So this one's kind of a pain, but the 2 in here, 1 at the bottom, 1 at the top. You just gotta log in and out, log in and out, but I'm planning on maxing out my dagger and enchant at +5. And assuming I get enough stats, I'm going to max out a great scythe, probably in a cult, to fight bosses with toward the end of the game. Just because I want to play the great scythe before this playthrough is finished. And a cult is a weapon upgrade that really just fucks up bosses beyond description. Anyway, those 2 guys are dead now. Another thing is, if you do 2 different enchant paths on your weapons, you're not going to have to farm that many mats. I mean, if you just run through and get all the mats that are just part of playing the game, you can pretty much level up whatever weapon you want at least once all the way to the max in a certain upgrade path. But if you want to, say, have 2 blessed weapons, or I always say blessed, it's divine. If you want to have 2 divine weapons maxed out, it's going to be more problematic because of the slabs that you need. At the end of every upgrade path, you have to have a slab. So whether you're just going to like normal +15, where you just need a regular titanite slab, or you're going to like enchant +5, you need a blue Titanite slab. So you got to really pick and choose which weapons you want to max out in advance. I shouldn't have necessarily grabbed that soul right then, because right now I'm just doing the crystal lizards, but it was staring me right in the face, so I just went ahead and grabbed it. Big thing is with those basilisks, don't let them turn you to stone. If you this hollow is hard enough with the falling and the getting lost and the tricky jumps without letting those bastards turn you to stone. So keep your distance, fuck them up, do what you got to do. I make a slight boo-boo here. I go ahead and reset. I'm actually at the wrong intersection, but that is all right because I quickly realized my mistake. I had my notes and the Gay for Games videos out while I was doing this. So anytime you see me just standing still or resetting, I'm quickly checking what other people have done. So yeah, I deserve no credit whatsoever on this, except for a few lucky jumps that I get where I'm kind of improvising, trying to get back to where I was. And if those guys hadn't made that video, I probably would have just skipped the Great Hollow entirely the first time through, because the first time through, you might see 1 or 2 crystal lizards, but you're not aware of the fact that there's like, I think there's 10 total in the whole thing. But anyway, it takes a little bit of patience, a little bit of time, but I kill all of them. I mean, the video would have been way longer if I didn't do the fast forwarding. These ones take a long time to appear. And another thing to be aware of, if you stand where I'm standing, you cannot walk back up there. It's really, really tricky, and I'll slow it down for the part when I try to walk back up there, but it's a weird little game glitch, but you will see it in regular speed. So in and out, in and out. But I did watch a great Gay for Games video earlier when they're talking about the difference between great level design versus great world design, and they're going through, they went from Demon Souls to Dark Souls 2 to Bloodborne to Dark Souls 3 and compared all of them. Yeah, I killed that one, and here, check that out. Titanite slab. That was a lucky drop, so I do a little happy dance for that because that was a very lucky break. Jump for joy, as Jumpin' Productions would say. But now here's the tricky part. I'm trying to walk back up. Can't walk over. Can't roll over. Trying to walk all around. You have to run and jump over, and even then, you still could very easily fall to your death, which happens to a lot of people. But I'm pro as fuck, so I'm going to get through this shit. So here I go. Huh! Yeah. I'm barely getting up and over, so just be aware of that. But yeah, there are 2 right here. The second one for me just takes forever to appear. I don't know why he took so long, but he just does. So I have to go in and out, in and out. But anyway, back to the video of level design versus world design. It was a really, really comprehensive, cool video talking about what the various games in this franchise get right and what the various games get wrong. And while they freely acknowledge that Dark Souls 1, in terms of world design, is the undisputed heavyweight champion, even Dark Souls 1 has its flaws in world design, because most of what we love about the world design comes in the first half of the game. From the time you start through the time you clear on Londo, and I pointed out some previous videos, but the way you can double back and the way there's shortcuts connecting zones and the way you can kind of feel every zone stacked up against the one beside it, it's pretty extraordinary stuff. But then there's some later zones that are less connected, that feel like standalone zones or feel just outright rushed. So, it's not like it was like a perfect home run from start to finish. It just happens to be the closest thing to it out of all the games. Whereas a game like Dark Souls 3 has phenomenal level design. There's some levels in there where you're just like in awe of how cool the individual level is, but it doesn't connect to the rest of the world. You're just in total isolation. I mean, you can basically, you go in there, you teleport in there with the fire, and you teleport out the end. But it's just these little standalone adventures. So it's not quite the same thing. What people love, I shouldn't speak for other people. What I love most about Dark Souls is how incredibly immersive and intricate it is, and how exploration is always rewarded. And if you explore and learn the shortcuts and learn where all the NPCs are, learn where all the gear is, in subsequent playthroughs, your knowledge is always rewarded. Whereas with Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3, where it's a little bit more linear, I mean, you've got some options. Like when you start out Dark Souls 2, you can pick a couple different zones to start with. If you start out Dark Souls 3, you basically have like one choice. But there are a few opportunities to branch off throughout the game, but not many. But with Dark Souls 1, you can go to like 4 or 5 different zones right out of the gate. I wouldn't recommend it, but you've at least got the option. And a lot of people apparently just walked right into that little graveyard with the skeletons by by the starting zone and just quit. Though this game's too hard, bro. Fuck it. And they didn't realize they were going to like the worst possible spot. All right, so now it's time to grab the gear. That roll into the trunk gives you one of the best rings in the game. You will recognize it as the Chloranthy ring. It raises your stamina when you're wearing it. I'm not going to be wearing it because I want the sorcery ring on, and I've got my shield to jacking up my stamina. But if you're a melee guy and you're not fucking around with spells at all, use that damn ring. I mean, just having your stamina constantly coming back is a pretty incredible advantage. Be super careful right here. You cannot just walk out there, and if you run and jump, you can easily overdo it. So you got to jump far enough back that you don't fall to your death. Yeah, so this is where it starts getting a little more complicated because we're going to be on a lot more round routes instead of flat routes. But it's all worth getting if you want to upgrade 1, maybe 2 shields to the max and upgrade 2 weapons to the max, and something I definitely plan on doing. Jump! I highly recommend getting each and every item in here. I mean, it's just an absolute treasure trove. There's no better place in the game for, in a short period of time, farming mats. I mean, if you follow this guide and don't fall as much as I do, you can do the whole thing in like 30, 40 minutes. But because I fall and double back a few times, I have to repeat a few things, it took me like 45 or something like that. So, but also just keep the video open and just do one step at a time. Be careful here because that fucking root gets in the way, and then you just fall. Look how fucking far that is. I mean, this Great Hollow is so damn tall. It's got a couple different levels, and there's no bonfires. Unlike Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3, where you seem to like stumble into a bonfire every 5 feet. Dark Souls 1 is like, look, dude, you gotta earn your bonfires, and so you gotta get all the way down to the bottom of the Great Hollow and enter the next zone before you find your next bonfire. They make you earn it the hard way, pain, blood, frustration. But I don't lose my souls at any point in this, so at least I die a bunch of times, but I always recover my souls. So yeah, just get good at rolling, get good at jumping. These are crucial Dark Souls skills to have, and also just get used to memorizing maps, because yeah, it's just these are not linear. This one in particular is not a linear experience. I mean, I have a feeling 10, 15, 20 years from now, when people look back at all-time classic games of the 21st century, when it comes to world design and level design, Dark Souls will always be part of the equation. Fuck me. See that? I was just walking along. It was a little curved, and I just slid off of it, and I was right in the middle. So yeah, there you go. Yeah, that shit's frustrating. Heal up. But at least after you've died a few times, you get a lot better at memorizing your way around, because you see a lot of things a couple times. Anyway, I'm back. I kind of took a slightly different route to get back to this little platform just because of where my souls were. But that's all right, because this is where I was trying to get to when I slid off, because this is the next part down. So anywho, don't make my mistake to get here, but this is the platform you want to get. This is me consulting the video and continuing. But another interesting point that the Game for Games guys brought up about level design versus world design is that in a lot of cases you have bonfires in Dark Souls 2 and 3 where you could just as easily have a really cool shortcut taking you back to another bonfire that you've already opened up, which makes basically, when you explore the world more and you have to travel through things to get there, you really feel like you've lived the world and experienced the world. Whereas you're constantly teleporting through bonfires, it's just a little bit more of like a removed experience. It's more about the action and less about the exploration, which I guess at that point you're just making a different game. Like if the focus of the game is cool gameplay, interesting combat, and like focusing on building interesting characters, then by all means, remove that. But it seems like one of the reasons that Dark Souls is always spoken about with such reverence and awe is because of how much exploring you get to do and just how brutally punishing it can be in the process. Yeah, just another thing to keep in mind, some of these sticks that are in the way, some of them you can just walk right through them and they break. Some of them will push you around them and make you fall and die, which is never good. But just gotta know, if they're thin, you can walk through them. If they're not thin, walk around them, or they will push you around you, or not push you, but it's like the game will kind of like glitch you around and you'll fall off the edge. Anyway, Blue Titanite chunk, that's awesome because I need all those for my dagger. If you remember my previous video, I believe it's the previous video, I was over and I got the Enchanted Ember. And the Enchanted Ember, what it allows me to do is once I go to Magic +5, if I don't want to take my Magic bonus any higher, I can switch from Magic +5 to just Enchanted +0 or Basic Enchanted. And from there, I can start upgrading, and Enchanted +5 is the absolute max. But I need a lot of blue Titanite chunks to make that happen. The good news is I'll be able to jack up my dagger real damn soon. So, be careful down here. These motherfuckers, the basilisks, they love turning you to stone or cursing you. And you just gotta not let them gang up on you. 1 is no problem. 2 or 3, you're in you got some serious problems. So I'm trying to find a way to shoot him from above, but he's wise to my ruse and my antics and just not having any of it. And my soul arrows just aren't hitting very hard. But that's because I'm a moron. And at the end of this video, I realized that I've got somehow magically I've got my rusted iron ring on again, which is like the age-old problem I had in some previous videos. It's because when I was running through Blighttown, I was trying to save time going through all the fucking poison swamp water, so I put it back on, and then I forgot that I had it on. So luckily, I don't go through too much of the next zone with it on, but I do fight a boss with it on. And it actually kind of works out to my advantage because the next boss I got to fight in this video is a Hydra, and I fight it in some shallow water, so it kind of worked out that my sloppiness, I still had the rusted iron ring on. I just wish it had been a choice instead of an accident. So yeah, I like to be strategic, not enjoy blind luck. Another blue Titanite chunk. Hell yeah. And there's two last pieces of gear to get, both of which are not insanely difficult. One's insanely difficult. One just happens to be tricky for me. That kill a lot of players, and a little bit of luck's involved. But I will show you how to get them both because this is a comprehensive walkthrough. But I've been doing some more thinking about whether or not to do Dark Souls 2 and my Dark Souls 2 walkthrough. And I'm just thinking a complete, total Dark Souls 2 guide. I mean, I could probably play Dark Souls 2 and just clear it in a day or two, no problem. But doing the videos and recording, because not just about playing through, because to edit the videos and fast forward through the unnecessary parts and then record the commentary and then posting them to YouTube, it's hours and hours and hours. Like for every hour of gameplay, there's probably 4 hours of like work or uploading. And so it would just take me like weeks to get through Dark Souls 2. So yeah, unless I hear Wednesday that Dark Souls 3, that expansion pack is coming out like next year in the summer, I'm going to skip right back into Dark Souls 3. I'm ready to play it again. I'm missing it. I only played it for like a month when it first came out before I got distracted with, or actually maybe 2 months. All right, so the reason I'm coming back up this ladder is the last piece of gear. This one is by far the trickiest in terms of the placement. So after you come to the ladder, you just go straight ahead. Now you got to walk, don't run. But that little hole up in front of me, if you roll through it, that's not good. But if you walk through, you basically want to walk as close to the right corner as possible, but not all the way, because you see, I do it all the way to the right, and I get real lucky that this one branch sticking out doesn't kill me. But if I want to be just a teeny bit to the left of where I am, but you see, I drop that in, I hit that. See that little spike I hit? I hit that spike. It should have killed me and knocked me away. By some miracle, I still landed on it. And even more important, this little part looks like an easy drop, but it's basically a sliding board. You want to let the sliding board work and don't move until you come to a stop. Like that's when you start moving. Once you realize you're settled. If you start moving immediately, you're gonna fall. So a lot of people fall and die in this part right here. And this takes you down to essentially the bottom part of the area where you fight some more like mushroom people. And there's one last item to get on one of the mushrooms. It's always a little tricky to see and how to get. And I'm looking for it right now. But real quick, I'm just going to run back up to the end of the previous area just so you can see how they connect. Since I've been like dropping through things, I just want you to see like this is where I grabbed the item before I fell through the hole or deliberately. And now you kind of see how they're all connected. I just want you to not think they're like disconnected zones. So now I'm looking for the remaining item. I know it's on top of one of the pink toadstools or mushrooms or fungi, whatever the fuck it is. I'm just having trouble finding it. And once I see it, I will be able to try and go after it. These little guys are just my nemesis because they just do not give a fuck about my sorcery. They just shrug it off. And there's some bigger ones that are much stronger down below as well. But luckily I've got lots and lots of these spells. So I can just keep spamming. And he almost knocked me off, that little fucker. So he's a knife in the face. So there is the item. So the key is to drop down kind of like behind it and above it and then roll down on it. And I'm going to go looking for that spot. I can kind of see where I need to get, but I'm being real dumb because that's kind of what I do. I thought I had the right idea right here, but I do not. And what the hell am I doing? Yeah, I'm just trying to see it again. So now I see it, and I realize I stopped too high up, so I'm trying to get back up, but I slip and I die because Dark Souls is an evil, horrible mistress that likes to kill you and torture you every chance it gets. So now I'm way the hell up, and so I'm going to fast forward getting all the way back down to the bottom. There is a simple route where you can just walk on foot the whole way down and then take a ladder, but I make a mistake at one point in terms of the route that I take, which requires me to do some jumping, but I do at the bottom identify the ladder that is available. But if you just walk the safe way the whole way down, you eventually will find this really, really tall, long ladder that takes you down to the basilisks. Hang on one sec. Just grab a quick sip of water so I can do fewer weird sounds. That's my mistake, though. I dropped down there, which I should not have done. Or at least I don't think, yeah. So now I'm kind of having to improvise. And whenever I improvise in the Great Hollow, I mean, I played through this on my test build a few days ago, and it was just a comedy of errors and me screaming and freaking out. And this is my biggest mistake I make. I roll down to this, which is a trap, because you cannot go either direction. You can't go that way, can't go that way. So then it's like, all right, well, what the hell do you do? Do you roll off and try to land on something and probably die? Or do you try to jump back up and miss and probably die? So I try to roll a few times, but I'm just desperate not to lose my soul, so I'm trying real hard not to die. And I'm just not having any luck. Somehow I'm not falling through that hole. I should be falling through that hole. And that is like the most like money roll that I've ever done. I did not even really do it on purpose, but somehow it worked out and I didn't die. So game on. Let's continue. So now I'm back to the route that I took to get to that item on that branch, and I know where I am. Back with the first level basilisks, that is the ladder that is available for the proper way down. It's a ladder I don't actually think I've ever actually used because I always make a mistake of some kind coming down. But anyway, I meant to take a sip of water and I didn't, so now I'm going to take it. But yeah, going back to the whole Dark Souls 3 versus Dark Souls 1 thing, it just seems like, as Dark Souls 2, as much as I have that game kind of like memorized, and I probably have the best knowledge of Dark Souls 2 of all the three games, it just seems like a mistake to assume that if anybody who is learning to play Dark Souls now, they're not going to start with Dark Souls 2. They're either going to hear Dark Souls as a classic and start with Dark Souls. I also, just because the game is so brilliant, just wanted to have a walkthrough, even if no one watched it, because I just want to have a record that I used to be good at a game that was acknowledged as a classic and challenging. But anybody who's new to the Dark Souls franchise now is either going to start with Dark Souls 3 or Dark Souls 1. They're just not going to start with Dark Souls 2. The people that start playing Dark Souls 2 now who have never played it before are going to just be people who have just played Dark Souls 3 and Dark Souls 1 to death and are sick of it and just want to see some new environments and play it. Thing is, Dark Souls 2 does a lot of things really, really well. Like, every game probably has one or two things that it does better than the other games, so they're all worth playing. I mean, Dark Souls 2, people shit on it, but it's a really, really fun game. I mean, I spent like half a year playing Dark Souls 2, and that was how I fell in love with the franchise, so do not misinterpret my negativity. But it's just, at this point, I have spent so much time in the world of Dark Souls 2 compared to my time that I've spent in Dark Souls 3. I owe it to Dark Souls 3 to get back into that game. So, yeah, after this video, I was counting it out. I think I've got 10 videos left to do in this series. I've got like 9 big zones and 1 boss. So, if I do 2 videos a day, maybe I can be done in 5 days. That's what I'm hoping. Oh, that's my phone beeping. I forgot to put it on Do Not Disturb, so let me turn that off. Holy crap, that is amateur on my part. Yeah, these guys, I just hate them. If they get close to you, they will hit you in the face harder than a lot of bosses. You just take tons of damage, and there's a knockback. Granted, I'm near the bottom now, so I'm not going to die to fall damage, but there are a few more of these bastards in the area, so if they knock you down there, you're going to quickly get surrounded by mushrooms and die. And then guess what? You got to start at the top of the fucking Great Hollow and work your way down again. I mean, so just when you get to the bottom, be super careful. Don't die to something dumb because you just will cry. It's just, this place will just break your spine and break your love of video games if you die to it too many times. And the more you die, the more you start to rush and get impatient, which leads to more mistakes and more death. This is a zero mistake environment in terms of how you need to run through it. Better to be slow and methodical than quick and pro, because it's not going to work out to your advantage, especially if it's your first time through. But we are now officially at the bottom of the Great Hollow. There are a few more mushrooms down here. I think I'm going to kill maybe 1 or 2 of them, but it is time to move on to the next zone. So hallelujah. That's actually the last thing in the walkthrough that I was dreading doing. I was dreading Blighttown. I was dreading this. And that's pretty much it in terms of like zones that you're just makes you just sad being there. I mean, Blighttown, you're just down there for so long, and when you finally get back up to the top, you're just like, oh my god, like I can see the light, like praise the sun, all that good stuff. And yeah, now it's just nice to be back, especially when you get down here. It's this big, wide open, beautiful atmospheric zone with creepy music. And later on, when I return to the Tomb of the Giants, you can see this zone from a huge distance. Like the latter part of the game, the one knock that it has is how little interconnectivity the zones have. But occasionally you get a glimpse of the other zones from them, which is kind of cool. So you at least know that you're still nearby. So from the Tomb of the Giants, at one point you see the Demon Ruins, and at one point you see this zone. So it just kind of reminds you where everything is. But it's kind of a pump fake or a magician's ruse, because you don't actually have access to them. So yeah, but in what is otherwise just a masterpiece of a video game, you know, the lack of interconnectivity in the latter half of the game is a mild knock. But once again, the bonfires don't allow you to go to every single bonfire, so you still do need to do some exploring in the latter half, so it's got that advantage. Now from a distance, I love this because you can see what the Hydra looks like. I just love being able to see the body, because when you fight the first Hydra in the Dark Root Basin, you can't see its tentacles. I never realized just how big the boss is. This Hydra is dramatically more difficult. It's got more health, hits for more damage. There's a very, very steep edge right there that you will fall off and die to. And for whatever reason, they seem to shoot their breath weapon attack at a closer range as well. So it's just a little bit more tricky. And I struggle a bit initially, because when you got all 7 heads out, I think I said 9 in the previous Hydra fight, but only 7 heads. But when you have a couple hitting you at once, it can just shatter your endurance. You spend a lot of time just healing after every attack instead of attacking. But basically, once you get 1 head down, especially if it's a middle head, you're never going to have but so many hitting you at once. And if you once you get 2 heads down, the fight's laughably easy. So I'm going to show it in real time, at least at the beginning. What I was experimenting with was trying to fight on the right or on the center or on the left, and seeing if he would follow me and rotate for each one, because if he doesn't rotate and follow you in terms of his orientation, that means fewer heads are going to attack you. So I was just trying to find a spot where I could fight only a few heads at once instead of all 7, just so I could get 1 down. But finally I realized I just needed to start attacking and hitting. Otherwise, I just was going to be in for a very, very long night. Because I've got almost no endurance. I can take 1 hit with my shield, and then anything beyond that, I'm going to suffer. What's cool also about fighting these guys with heightened sorcery spells is that you can actually do more damage than the head can take, and the body will absorb the rest of the damage. So you can actually kill the boss while some heads still remain. It's kind of like 4 Kings. You don't have to kill 4 Kings in the 4 Kings fight. If you're doing low damage output, you will have to kill 4 Kings. But if you're doing high damage output, you can like kill like 2 or 3 Kings, and the thing goes down. So I'm just fast forwarding and going. Moving to the left, trying to figure out a way to get hit just a little bit less. I'm just really struggling. Now I'll switch to Soul Spear and skadoosh. First head's down. So it's all downhill from here. Once 1 head's down, he's just all kinds of fucked. I missed with 2 of my Soul Spears, though, which is frustrating, because Soul Spear does so much damage. Now I'm slowing it down, which means it must be about to hit something. Let's see what I do. So, yeah. I hit something off screen, but I still hit it, so 2 heads down. So yeah, now 2 heads are down. Now the fight's so easy. And actually, in a weird way, It gets kind of hard again toward the end because you have fewer targets to aim at, and then you actually have to have a little more accuracy. So I'm just fast forwarding it while I fight, and you know, I'll periodically slow down. This one I like because I got 2 hits off in the same in one pass, which I very rarely do. Usually I'll miss twice, hit twice, because you can't lock onto the heads, and if you're a sorcerer, you just have to eyeball it. There goes another head. He is so screwed. So repositioning. Trying to figure out what I want to hit, and I'm just thinking there's 1 head over there versus 3 on the other side. Let me just focus on the 1 head. I got hit or nicked one of them, but now I'm just focusing on this last one. But yeah, I miss and I miss and I miss and I miss, but I'm just not getting hit now, so it's not the big deal. The only danger is running out of spells and having to kill this guy with my friggin' dagger, which would have taken a millennium. But yeah, that was such a cool boss. Surprised I never brought the Hydra back. Slowing down, so I must be about to polish him off. So, 1 last heavy soul arrow. Boom. And, yeah, he's going bye-bye. So, he's still got 3 heads up, and he's dying because when I killed some of the previous heads, he just absorbed a lot of extra damage. So, I got 2 dragon scales, which is great for this covenant we're about to join. One of the fun things about Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3 is the ability to turn into a dragon. Actually, I don't know if it's in Dark Souls 2. It's definitely in Dark Souls 3 because I've done it. But you can join this covenant where you get these items that you can upgrade, and you have like different versions of your dragon form that you can do that are varying degrees in power, and you're basically stuck in that form until someone kills you in PvP. But you know, some people really enjoy it just because of the plain dress up. Actually, you know what? I think the reason I was hazy on Dragon Souls 2 is because Dragon Souls 2, I did join that Dragon Covenant a few times because you fight it. I think most of the PvP takes place around Iron Keep. I just never finished it and gathered enough mats to turn in to get that opportunity because I just never did a whole lot of PvP in Dark Souls 2. I was so busy learning to play the game that PvP was kind of intimidating. So yeah, it's definitely available in Dark Souls 2, or at least a version of it. I don't know if it has the same transformation powers that Dark Souls 1 and 3 have, but I, on my second playthrough of Dark Souls 3, did the transformation, and it was pretty cool. You get these crazy powers. These guys are awesome. They're available here and in the Crystal Cave, but they have a really high drop rate of Twinkling Titanite. Granted, I've just said that in this playthrough, for whatever reason, I kill 4 down here, and not one of them drops a Twinkling Titanite. But there are plenty of times where I've run through here, and every single one of them has. But the better place to farm is in the Crystal Cave after you beat, I think his name is Seath, the Scaleless Dragon, because there are like 6 or 7 of them in a close area. So if you want to finish upgrading any gear and you still need some more Twinkling Titanite, you can just wreck these guys, and yeah, it won't take long. And they're pretty good for souls as well, and pretty easy to fight. If they get close to you, they will kick your ass, but just don't let them get close, and you're good to go. And eventually, I will have a lot more soul arrows and a lot more soul spears and crystal soul spears, which makes it pretty easy just to one-shot them. Another water break, 1 sec. So the rest of this zone down here is a straight shot. There are no more bosses, and there is a very important spell that's kind of hard to get to. It's very easy, but not hard to get to, but it's very easy to die right as you get to it. I will show you that. Yeah, but this zone actually feels and looks a lot like a Dark Souls 2 zone. Like Dark Souls 2 has a couple of zones that are super horizontal and widespread. Like there's that zone near the end of the game where you're on this giant like underground lake, and there are all these fucking sorcerers miles away that can like detect you at insane distances, and they all just shoot spells at you. And it's one of the most challenging zones by far in Dark Souls 2, but that's what this place reminds me of. But in terms of difficulty, this zone is pretty damn easy, because it's not even really a zone. It's basically just a giant room designed for a covenant. And yeah, but then again, it's got a boss, and it's got a spell, and it's got an important mat, so I guess it's a zone. Just doesn't feel like a proper zone just because you don't have to really do that much, and it's over before you even get properly started. So be real careful walking on here. There's another basilisk around the corner. If you get cursed here, that'll suck, but granted, you're not that far away. It's kind of hard to lock onto him because of the trunk, but if you get close enough, you can get him. Yeah, he'll just, if he falls over, don't worry about it, because don't chase him, because you will drop in the water and die. What you want to do is that trunk sticking out, you just want to drop right down on the edge, and it'll allow you to go inside. It's a little bit weird in terms of where you land. I mean, I almost drowned there. And then you run back up inside. And this is a spell just for faith builds. But in case you are following my advice, I think faith build is my most fun playthrough that I've done on Dark Souls. So yeah, I highly recommend it. The only challenging part now is gathering all of your sunlight metals early enough in the game where you can get your medium lightning bolt early enough to put it to work. Because if you play just pure PvE, you will get your sunlight metals. And if you use Solar in a couple of the boss fights, you get a few more. So I think it is possible to get 10 in a playthrough, but it's way easier if you have other players. So my advice, if you play through as a faith build, get your faith to 20 really, really early. Join the Sunlight Bros immediately when you find that little statue after the Red Drake. And then when you get to the Gargoyle boss, just let yourself get summoned over and over and over again. Even if it takes 30 minutes to get summoned because of a smaller player base than there once was. But there are still people who play Dark Souls 1, and that's the easiest boss by far to get summoned. So yeah, don't pass a whole bunch of levels. This is me realizing that I got the wrong ring on and putting the right one back on. Better late than never. But yeah, when I played through this faith build, I basically spent like 2 or 3 hours just getting summoned on the gargoyles, because the early lightning bolt you get with faith 20 kills the gargoyles in like 2 hits. So when you get it invited in, you basically get to act like Zeus, just blasting those things down and pressing other players. And I farmed like 60 or 70,000 souls, which is a ton at that level. And then once you've got your 10 sunlight metals, then you can buy the medium lightning bolt. I think you have to get your faith to like 37 or 38. But once I got my faith at that point, I basically had 20 lightning bolts in my back pocket. And they go straight, they go far, they go fast, and they hit like goddamn like lightning for real. So I highly recommend that. The faith build is an absolute blast. And then just pick whatever weapon you think will be fun to play with and whatever suits your play style. I played with the halberd, though, which is an absolute blast. I can't imagine the first player who came in here when they first saw that. They must have been like, what the fuck is that? But it's not a boss. It is a Covenant Master. So yeah, just rest, heal, join it if you like. I think at 10, if you turn in 10 dragon scales, something good happens. Maybe it's a little bit more. I'd have to check to be sure, but we've already gathered a few dragon scales, and there are places where you can farm them in PvE. This is actually one of the few covenants that you can max out pretty easily, in spite of the fact that there's so little activity in terms of like player base these days. Because if you go fight those blue drakes near the new Londo Ruins, they drop those scales. So yeah, just put on your gold ring and put on some humanities, and you will get your scales, and you can turn into a dragon. Little trick: you can whack his tail a few times. He will not get pissed. He doesn't even seem to mind at all. And if you whack it enough, it eventually will pop off, and it'll give you a big ass sword that I'm not going to use, but I just want to show it because, you know, some people like wielding big ass swords. I have still to date in none of the Dark Souls games played like a big pure strength build, like gotten my strength to 50 or 60 and wielded some giant weapon. I need to do that at some point. I guess it just seems so predictable and obvious a way to play. It's kind of like, if you're going to play Dark Souls, playing with a strength build is kind of the first thing people choose. So, but at this point, I've played all 3 of them all the way through so many times, I kind of owe it to myself to have that experience. So it's time to take my magic dagger to +5. You do not want to take it any higher, because then you'll have to take it back down. And my enchanted ember, he is unable to work with. He doesn't understand what it is, but he has told me essentially that there's someone else who knows how to do it, and that is the little freak show behind bars we met at the very beginning of the game, the little mage blacksmith or sorcerer blacksmith down the new Londo Ruins, which actually works out perfectly because the new Londo Ruins is the next zone that I want to do. So it's going to look like I planned it out in advance to do it this way, but it just happened this way. But I'm going to do new Londo Ruins and eventually kill the 4 kings. At least that's the goal, if I have enough power. And yeah, at least I'll have a stronger dagger going into it. The only difference between this and my test build is my test build had 4 Crystal Soul Spear spells. But on my test build, I was an idiot and fought the 4 kings with Witch Beatrice. And that makes the 4 kings way more powerful in terms of how much damage they can take. So I hope it'll be easier this time, because I'm not going to summon her. I'm going to show how to summon her, but terms of the health that the Four Kings gain by using Witch Beatrice versus the amount of damage she puts out. She's not real good at dodging their attacks, so she dies pretty early on, and then you're stuck with a much more powerful version of the boss. So I think I'm just going to fly solo on Four Kings. Also, as a sorcerer, it's really easy to stay out of range of their melee attacks, and you just got to eat a few of their sorcery attacks, but that's not that big of a deal. And Four Kings are only really tough when you're standing up close and you're getting staggered by their melee shots. Now, this is our friend from the beginning of the game, who was the very first person to talk to us when we arrived at Firelink Shrine. He has gone hollow, he's gone crazy, and he doesn't know what to do. He also has very, very shitty strategy. He dodges backwards when you shoot a spell at him. So what he does, he ends up rolling backwards into your spells. So, yeah, don't do that. If a spell's coming toward you, roll forward, and it'd be easier for you to dodge it. If you roll backwards, you're giving it more of a chance. I don't know why I didn't grab the S-Stock beforehand, but anyway, that is the end of this video. Next video, we will be doing New Londo Ruins. Hopefully, we'll be doing the whole damn thing. And thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, like, all that good stuff, and follow me on Twitter at Colbrax, and I'll be back at you in the near future. Thanks so much.